Hello and welcome to the Crone Zone. I'm Lynn and I'm bringing you today the video for the partial solar eclipse in Aries. This is happening on the 29th of March in the UK and at about 10:47 a.m. Obviously earlier if you're further west, and you need to adjust for your own time zone and part of the world. Unlike the recent total lunar eclipse, the last video that I did, this eclipse has slipped back to the previous axes, so it's a little away from the North Node, and it has returned to the Aries Libra axes. This strikes me as very significant because it rounds up and completes, for now, all of the things that were taking place for us in the eclipses that we had on the Aries Libra axes. And much of this was to do with the yang energy of Aries, the yin energy of Venus as represented by Libra in opposition to Aries, and some of the conflicts between self and other, between becoming self-realized without becoming selfish, being able to consider others without losing autonomy and becoming a people pleaser. There were many, many lessons during this series of eclipses that we were being prompted to consider and learn. This is the final hurrah. Now, we will not have another eclipse on this axis until 2032. So this is those final opportunities to round this out. So Mars is the ruler of this eclipse. Obviously, Mars is the ruler of Aries, and both the Sun and Moon are in Aries at almost 9 degrees. I think it's very important here to look at the interplay and the roles that Venus and Mars are playing in this eclipse, because they are the rulers. Venus and Mars are the rulers of the axes that the eclipse is happening on, and we cannot see one side of that axis without also considering the other, and Venus is playing a very crucial role here, as is Mercury, as we will see. The full lunar eclipse aside, I think prior to that we'd had something like 5 new moons on 9 degrees, and I talked in one of my previous videos about 9 degrees and about that being that point of completion, that point of rounding up, finishing. By the time we get to 10, we're already launching a new cycle, and that is a very apt symbolism for this eclipse, for this point in the year when we are launching new beginnings. Chiron has been in the sign of Aries, yang, masculine energy, since 2018. And Chiron is representing that wounding, that damage, that wound that is being carried. Now, it is also true that the feminine has been deeply, deeply wounded by a couple of thousand years of patriarchy. There are wounds on both sides. And Chiron has been involved in all of the eclipses that we've seen on the Aries-Libra axis. That pain has been there. And to my way of looking at it, one of the greatest challenges to us, to our world, to the way we govern ourselves, the way we interact between relationships between men and women, between state and individual, between man and nature. All of these have been negatively influenced by the damage and limitations that are current in the image of the masculine and the feminine. At their most extreme, both are damaged badly. And at the moment, we are seeing plenty of evidence at all walks of life of the monster boys and the Barbie dolls that are the polarities of this wounding. And we have been invited over more than an 18-month period to look at and try to heal some of this really core damage that we are carrying. And I want now to pick up on the title of my video, The Devil's Horns. This partial solar eclipse, the moon is between the earth and the sun, casting a shadow on the sun, but it's not covering all of it. And where this eclipse is visible, which I think is in parts of Canada and is it northwest part of the United States, there you may well see the moon in the middle of the sun, but the nimbus around it looking like the horns, like a devil's horns. So, that's how this particular type of eclipse got its name, and presumably perhaps the ominous reputation that goes with that. But as is my way, I find it an incredibly apt name to bring in here. And also, as is my way, I want to relate this very much to a tarot card, and that is the card of the devil, because this shows the yin and the yang, chained, limited, held in chains by projections, by damage, by limitation, by power over, by fear and projections. And that seems to me the thing that we need to exorcise, the thing that we need to be done with, the thing that we need to heal and move forward. Because I think until we do heal this core issue, it's impossible for us to heal many of the other issues that face our world at the moment. Mars, the ruler of the eclipse, is still in the sign of Cancer. It is direct now, but it is in the feminine water sign of Cancer, which in many ways can seem to be at odds with fire. But there's a huge theme in this eclipse of the melding and blending and flow between water and fire, which on the face of it look to be contradictory elements, but which I think are showing us a huge opportunity for creativity. So Mars remains in Cancer. Meanwhile, Venus crossing and recrossing the point between Pisces and Aries, moving over 0 degrees of Aries, then back into Pisces, then back over 0 degrees of Aries, as is Mercury, who's travelling with Venus at this point in many ways. So we have much to and fro between feminine water of Pisces, that deep, deep waters of dissolution, and the primordial spark and fire of Aries, especially that highly charged 0 degrees point, which of course the sun passed over on the 20th of March this year, when we had spring equinox. Venus retrograded in Aries on the 2nd of March. And in Aries, we had, if you like, a very yang version, a very masculinized version of Venus there. Just as at the same time we're experiencing a more feminized yin version of Mars. Message here. Everything is deeply, deeply interfused. Nothing should be at a polarity. There is a huge image here of melding. Venus disappeared from our skies and went into the underworld, as we call it, and the inferior conjunction where she passed across the face of the sun. And this was the sun in Aries. So this closeness of Venus is to the sun, again, it's a huge charge of empowerment into Venus from fire of fire. The sun is a masculine force, and Aries is the masculine planet as well. Mars is a masculine planet. Aries, Mars ruled, is a very masculine fire sign, where we have, as I've said, that spark, that divine spark that starts the whole zodiac off and the new year in nature. But we can see here, crisscrossing, this interplay of energies, of the feminine in fire and the masculine in water. So Venus was conjunct the sun on the 23rd. Very next day, on the 24th, Mercury also conjunct the sun. And of course, Mercury and Venus, as is Mars, they are personal planets to us. And that matters here because these are planets we can access. We have a lot of intergenerational shift happening with Neptune that is going to move over that 0 degrees of Aries on the 30th of March. But Neptune can be a difficult energy for us to access, to realise inside of ourselves consciously. Whereas Mercury and Venus are our personal planets. And Venus will have been asking us, well, what do I value? What matters to me? What have I been putting my time into? Is it worth it? It'd be thinking about, do I want to revoke things? Do I want to keep things as they are? What is of true value to me? And Mercury will be providing the headroom, the conscious awareness of those things, which may not be so very comfortable for us because we're being pushed out of comfort zones and places where we're habituated to be and feel safe. So a lot of that has been going on, as well as a lot of the confusion and feeling of disillusion, and perhaps dissolution and disillusionment that we've had with so many planets in Pisces. So, as part of this dance, feminine water, masculine fire, back to feminine water, back to fire, that Venus and Mercury is doing, on the 27th, Venus retrogrades back into Pisces, so back into water, back into the feminine energy. And by the time of the eclipse, Mercury is sitting right on the 0 degree point of Aries. So we are acutely tuned to this prospect of this new beginning. But unfortunately, because we still have so many planets in Pisces, It's not yet possible for us to see directly our way forward. This will become more apparent as we get into April and into May, when we will be able to see our direction. Part of our issue is we're unsure of old directions that we've taken, but we do not yet have the clarity of the new directions that we will be taking and need to take. And we're acutely conscious of that. And there is a sense perhaps of impatience here. So with all of this toing and froing between water and fire, I'm seeing a sort of an image of a flow of sparks of fire in water. And it's striking me as hugely creative, a little like lightning strikes in the primordial soup creating life. So I do think that this eclipse brings with it opportunities for creativity. And remember, it is a new moon, and it's a new moon in Aries, and it's a new moon at the start of the season of Aries. So yes, thinking about the future, seeding our hopes into that, I think will be important. So maybe our frustration, our impatience about getting some clarity and moving forward is because we've got to get the message right here. You know, we have Aries, self-actualization at its best, naked bullying and aggression at its worst, you know, but individuation, which in itself is a fine goal, and the movement between that selfhood and the collective all one of Pisces. All is one. Individual, collective, me, all. And the message here seems to be that the individuation ultimately is in service to the all. That is the message that I believe is trying to come through here. And that we need creative, fertile meeting of what seems like opposite elements of yin and yang, of masculine and feminine, of water and fire, because it is in the melding and the flow of those that the creativity is, and that the spark of life is. So yin and yang, again, this theme picked up because the Aries new moon will be followed by the Libra full moon later. And Venus will have her heliacal rise. That means she will rise as the morning star on the 27th. Venus will rise, a heliacal rise as the morning star on the 27th of March. But within a very short time, she changed signs and moved into Pisces. So we see with Venus, fire to water. So her star point, she made her star point in fire. Her star point is part of the beautiful 8-sided star that Venus makes in her cycles. So she made her star point in Aries. But by the time she's visible, she's back into Pisces, where she is, of course, for this eclipse. And as I've said in previous videos, certainly in ancient times, things were not seen to be empowered until they were visible in the skies. So the Aries star point is visible in Pisces. And again, it's a blending, a melding of the two. Venus will rise, a heliacal rise as the morning star on the 27th of March. But within a very short time, she changed signs and moved into Pisces. So we see with Venus, fire to water. So her star point, she made her star point in fire. Her star point is part of the beautiful 8-sided star that Venus makes in her cycles. So she made her star point in Aries. But by the time she's visible, she's back into Pisces, where she is, of course, for this eclipse. And as I've said in previous videos, certainly in ancient times, things were not seen to be empowered until they were visible in the skies. So the Aries star point is visible in Pisces. And again, it's a blending, a melding of the two. So while we are here in our world, beset, as I have said, by the polarities of the monster boys and the Barbie dolls who are rampaging around, what is it that we personally can be taking and doing from this eclipse? Well, we remember that the yin, yang, masculine, feminine are present in all genders. They are not exclusive. They may get a more obvious embodiment between the male and the female, but they're by no means inclusive there. And again, it's the melding, it's the blending. And I think within the crucible of ourselves, we can work for harmonious recognition, love, and blending of those energies, acknowledging them, owning them, combining them. And also, I think, forgiving our own wounding and where we have wounded in those issues. And I think that it is by doing this that we can arrive at an integration, at an inner marriage, if you like. And I hope to God that by our own inner working, we can influence some of the craziness that is happening in our world. So there is huge creativity in this eclipse. There is clear indication of the healing that's needed. And let's hope that what we can contribute individually will help serve the collective and our planet. Well, I hope the eclipse treats you well. Obviously, we're not going to be hit with the total effects immediately. We can be feeling them before the eclipse, we can be feeling them after the eclipse. But this is the roundup for these particular issues for now. And as I've said, to my mind, they're absolutely crucial ones. And as always, I've been turning quite heavily to Venus and seeing what she is doing here. So thank you very much for staying with me, if you have, for this far. And I look forward to seeing you next time. So thank you for your support. Many, many thanks to the people who take the time to leave comments on the video and click like and subscribe. I so appreciate that. Thank you. I will see you next time.